Selamat pagi, Mr. Steve here with another Bali news update. Today's date is October the 11th, and in this video I want to highlight some strange goings on in the COVID reporting in Bali since the government opened its borders to domestic tourism. Now, before we get started, I'd just like to welcome the 24 new subscribers since my Bali news update last week, bringing the total number of subscribers to the dizzy heights of 417. Now, I've never lived in Bali, but having visited as a tourist some 30 plus times, it's pretty obvious Bali is my favourite destination for a break from the drudgery of working really hard at my job here in New Zealand. I've been to Thailand numerous times and other parts of the world, but nothing compares to holidaying in Bali. That said, let's get on with the video.
Mr. Steve!
Mr. Steve!
Remember when the Balinese government opened the borders to domestic tourists on the 31st of July with strict guidelines as to testing negative before setting foot in Bali using the much maligned and totally inaccurate rapid test? Well, back then, Bali had accumulated 48 deaths from or with COVID since the outbreak some 4 or 5 months before. Actual active cases, as you can see here, was only 483. And you can see from this graph that the line of active cases was starting to decrease and head in the right direction, and things were looking quite good. Well, jump forward a month after opening the borders and things started heading in the wrong direction, but not too alarming. As of the 31st of August, Bali had recorded just 68 deaths. That figure rose to 275 by the end of September, which would suggest 207 people died in September, and the pandemic was getting seriously worse by the day. However, I can now reveal that over 60 of those deaths recorded in September actually happened weeks and weeks prior in August. Putting together all these Bali news update videos, I use various sources, all the news sources out of Indonesia and Bali, plus a few little different ones like this one from Bali Legals. Bali Legals help people with visas into Bali, and they are a very, very good source of information, having put a daily report out now for months and months and months. Plus they cover some of the news items and some personal opinions on what's going on. So with 60 deaths from back in August, 39% of all deaths reported since I started tracking this issue in early September are coming from the government's seemingly endless, long-held-back list of deaths hidden from the public for weeks, and are not current deaths. So this means that the death rate for September should actually be 60% lower than what was reported, while the death rate for August should be 39% higher. It might be really interesting to know how many more dead bodies the Balinese government is hiding in its basement. So if you take those figures, 39% of the deaths reported in September are actually in August, then the actual death toll at the end of August should have been 149, not 68. And the total number of deaths in September should have been 126, not 207, which is actually a slight decline. But why are they doing this? The only thing that I can come up with is all down to the fact that they opened the borders to domestic tourism on the 31st of July, and to prove that that wasn't going to be a major problem in Bali, they decided to hide a lot of the data and not reveal it. And obviously with the figures increasing every day, it became apparent that they had to start releasing and drip feeding these reports into the September reports. So what does all this mean? It means that this huge spike that you can see here in September is actually should be flattened out a bit, and the increase should have been just steadily rising from the end of July right through September, and now where it's starting to be a little bit better under control. And Governor Wayan Costa in September should not have come out and blamed the people of Bali for their ill discipline, for the reason being that the death rate was going so high. It was his own government that was holding back the data. So that's a Bali news update for this week from Mr. Steve. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you again next week.
Mr. Steve.